Chapter 1. A Restless Night. The night was quiet in Willow Village. A cold wind moved slowly through the tall trees behind Anna's house. The branches of the old willow tree outside her window swayed gently, making soft whispering sounds in the darkness. Anna lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She had lived in Willow Village for several months now. The village was peaceful, far from the noise of the city. Most nights were calm and silent, but tonight felt different. For some reason, Anna could not fall asleep. She turned to the side and looked out the window. The moon hung low in the sky, pale and distant. The forest at the edge of the village looked darker than usual. Anna closed her eyes. Eventually sleep came, but it did not bring rest. It brought a dream. Anna found herself standing in a forest. At first, she thought it was the forest near Willow Village, but something felt strange. The trees were enormous. Their trunks were thick and ancient, covered with moss and deep cracks. Their branches stretched high into the sky, blocking most of the light. The air felt heavy and old. Anna walked slowly forward. The ground was covered with soft leaves and strange, glowing plants she had never seen before. A faint blue mist floated between the trees. "This place feels strange," Anna whispered. The deeper she walked, the older the forest seemed. Soon she saw a large tree in front of her. Something was carved into its trunk. Anna stepped closer. It was a symbol, a circle surrounded by 4 curved lines. The symbol glowed faintly in the darkness. Anna slowly reached out her hand. Just as her fingers touched the symbol, a sudden wind rushed through the forest. Leaves flew through the air, and a soft voice whispered in the darkness, "Guardian." Anna froze. She looked around quickly. "Who's there?" she called, but no one answered. Only the wind moved through the ancient forest. The whisper came again, "Guardian." Anna suddenly woke up. She sat up in her bed, breathing quickly. Her room was quiet again. Moonlight still shone through the window. "It was just a dream," she said softly, but something felt wrong. Her fingers still felt cold. Anna looked toward the forest outside. The trees were silent, but for a moment, she thought she saw a faint blue light deep inside the forest. Chapter 2. Echoes in the Wind. The next morning, Willow Village looked peaceful as always. Warm sunlight covered the small wooden houses. Birds sang in the trees, and the air smelled fresh. Anna walked slowly along the village road with a cup of coffee in her hand. But she could not stop thinking about the dream. The ancient forest, the glowing symbol, and the voice that called her guardian. It was only a dream, she told herself. Still, the memory felt too real. Later that afternoon, Anna decided to take a walk. She followed the narrow path that led toward the forest outside the village. She had walked this road many times before. Usually the forest felt calm and beautiful. But today something felt different. The closer she walked to the trees, the quieter everything became. The wind moved gently through the branches, but the sound felt strange, almost like a whisper. Anna stopped walking. She listened carefully. For a moment there was only silence. Then the wind carried a faint voice. "Guardian." Anna's heart skipped. She quickly turned around, but the path behind her was empty. "Hello?" she called. No one answered. Only the wind moved through the leaves. Anna shook her head. "I must be imagining things." She stepped deeper into the forest. Tall trees surrounded her. Sunlight filtered through the leaves above. Everything looked normal. Yet Anna felt a strange sensation, as if the forest was watching her. Then the wind blew again, and the whisper returned, "Anna." This time the voice said her name. Anna froze. Her heart began to beat faster. "Who's there?" she asked softly. But again there was no answer, only the rustling of branches. Anna slowly walked forward until she reached a small clearing. At the center stood a massive tree. Its trunk was wide and dark, older than any tree she had ever seen. Something was carved into its bark. Anna stepped closer. Her eyes widened. It was the same symbol from her dream, a circle surrounded by 4 curved lines. The symbol looked ancient. Anna reached out her hand slowly. Just before she touched the carving, a strong wind rushed through the clearing. Leaves spun in the air, and the whisper returned, "Guardian." Anna pulled her hand back quickly. Her heart raced. The dream had not been just a dream. Somehow, the forest remembered. Chapter 3: Visions of an Ancient Forest. That night the dream returned, but this time it was clearer, stronger. Anna stood once again inside the strange forest, but now she noticed something new. This forest looked different from the one near Willow Village. There were no roads, no houses, no village, only endless ancient trees stretching across the land. The air felt powerful, almost alive. Anna walked slowly between the enormous trunks. Then she saw something in the distance. People. A small group of figures stood in a circle. They wore long, dark robes. At the center of the circle stood a stone well. The well looked very old. Strange, glowing symbols covered its surface. Anna immediately recognized the symbol, the same one carved into the tree. The robed figures began to chant. Their voices echoed through the forest. The ground trembled slightly. Wind began swirling around the well. Anna watched silently. She could not move. It was as if she were watching a memory from long ago. One of the robed figures stepped forward. He raised his hand. A bright light appeared above the well. The chanting grew louder. Then suddenly, something deep inside the well moved. A dark shadow slowly rose from the darkness below. The air grew cold. The forest trembled. The shadow twisted like smoke. Ancient, powerful, dangerous, the robed figures raised their hands together. The glowing symbols around the well burst into bright light. A powerful seal formed across the opening. The shadow struggled. Then slowly it disappeared back into the darkness below. The forest became quiet again. The leader of the group spoke. His voice echoed through the ancient trees. This seal must never break. Then he turned his head. For a moment, he looked directly at Anna, as if he could see her. Across time, Anna gasped. Suddenly the dream began to fade. The forest disappeared. The robed figures vanished. But one last whisper echoed through the darkness. "The guardian will return." Anna woke up suddenly. Her room was dark. The wind outside was stronger than before. She slowly walked to the window. The forest stood silent in the night, but deep inside the trees, a faint symbol glowed, waiting, watching. Chapter 4: A Voice Beneath the Trees. The forest was quieter than usual that morning. Anna walked slowly along the narrow path behind Willow Village. Tall pine trees stood on both sides of the trail like silent guardians. Thin rays of sunlight slipped through the leaves and touched the soft moss on the ground. She hadn't slept well again. For 3 nights in a row, the same dream had returned. In the dream, Anna stood in a forest much older than the one near her village. The trees were enormous, their trunks wider than houses. Strange lights floated between the branches like tiny stars, and every time there was a voice, a whisper carried by the wind. At first, Anna thought it was only her imagination. But yesterday, walking along this same path, she had heard something strange. Someone had called her name. Anna stopped. The forest was completely still. Anna. Her heart jumped. This time she was sure she heard it. Slowly she looked around, but the path behind her was empty. "Hello?" she called. Only the wind answered. Then the whisper returned. "Follow the path." Anna felt a chill run down her spine. The voice was soft and calm, almost like the forest itself was speaking. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. The wind moved gently through the trees. "Come deeper into the forest." Anna looked ahead. Few people from Willow Village walked that far. The deeper forest was darker and older. Her grandmother once warned her about it. Some parts of the forest remember things people have forgotten. Anna never understood those words before, until now. Curiosity slowly pushed away her fear. "Just a little further," she whispered. She stepped deeper into the forest. The trees grew taller and older. Sunlight faded and even the birds became quiet. After several minutes, the trees suddenly opened into a small clearing. Anna stopped. In the center stood a tall stone covered with strange symbols. She slowly walked closer and touched its cold surface. At that moment, the whisper spoke again. "You have returned." Anna pulled her hand away. "Returned?" she asked in confusion. "I've never been here before." The forest grew silent. Then the voice answered softly, "Not in this life." Anna stared at the ancient stone. Somehow, the forest felt familiar, as if it had been waiting for her. And deep inside, she felt one thing clearly. This was only the beginning. Chapter 5: Words from Another Age. Anna returned to the clearing the next morning. She had barely slept. The voice, the stone, and the strange symbols kept returning to her mind again and again. The forest was calm when she arrived. Morning light slipped gently through the tall trees, and the ancient stone stood quietly in the center of the clearing. For a moment, nothing happened. Anna stepped closer. "Are you here?" she asked softly. The leaves rustled above her. Then the whisper returned. "I have always been here." Anna exhaled slowly. Somehow the voice no longer frightened her. She pointed at the symbols carved into the stone. "What language is this?" The wind moved through the clearing. "It is older than your village," the voice replied. Anna ran her fingers across the carved lines. They felt smooth and ancient. "Can you read it?" "Yes." "Then what does it say?" For a moment the forest became very quiet. Then the voice began speaking in a strange language. The sounds were soft and flowing, unlike anything Anna had ever heard before. Yet something unexpected happened. Although the words were unfamiliar, Anna somehow understood their meaning. Images appeared in her mind. She saw a forest that stretched far beyond the hills. Ancient guardians walked among the trees. Large stone circles stood beneath the moonlight, glowing with quiet power. Anna gasped and opened her eyes. "What was that?" "The old language," the whisper answered. "But I understood it." "Yes." "How?" There was a long pause. Finally, the voice spoke again. "Because the forest remembers you." Anna looked back at the ancient stone. A strange feeling grew inside her. The forest was not only speaking to her, it was calling her. Chapter 6: The Hidden Warning. That night, the dream returned. Anna stood once again inside the ancient forest. The trees were enormous, stretching high into a sky covered in silver mist. In the distance, she saw something new, a circle of standing stones. Each stone carried the same symbols she had seen in the clearing. But something was wrong. The ground in the center of the circle was cracked open. Dark shadows poured from the earth like smoke. Anna felt a deep sense of danger. Then the whisper spoke again, louder than before. "Wake up." Anna's eyes opened suddenly. Her room was dark and silent. Her heart was racing. Without thinking, she grabbed her jacket and hurried toward the forest. The moon hung high above the trees when she reached the clearing. The ancient stone stood where it always had. But the air felt different tonight, heavier. "What's happening?" Anna asked quietly. The whisper answered immediately. "The warning has begun." Anna felt a chill. What warning? The wind moved sharply through the trees. Something that was buried long ago is beginning to wake. Anna remembered the stone circle from her dream. Is it real? She asked. Yes. Where is it? The forest grew quiet again, deep within the forest. Anna stared into the darkness between the trees. For a moment she said nothing. Then she asked the question she feared the most. Why are you telling me this? The whisper answered softly, because the forest has chosen you. Anna frowned. Chosen me for what? The wind moved gently through the clearing. To become the next guardian. Anna stood there in silence. The forest around her felt older than time itself, and deep inside she realized something important. Her life in Willow Village was about to change forever. Chapter 7: The Forgotten Path. The forest was quieter than usual that morning. Anna stepped carefully over the soft moss, her boots sinking slightly into the earth. The air smelled of pine and wet leaves. Sunlight filtered through the tall trees. But the deeper she walked, the darker the forest became. She had returned to the forest many times since the strange dreams began, but today felt different. There was something pulling her forward, not a sound exactly, more like a memory. Anna paused near an old oak tree. The trunk was enormous, wider than any tree she had ever seen before. Its bark was cracked with age, and long vines hung from its branches like forgotten curtains. She felt it again, that strange feeling, as if the forest itself was whispering. She looked around slowly. Nothing moved, yet somehow she knew she wasn't lost. Instead, she felt like she was being guided. Anna took another step forward, then another, and suddenly she noticed something unusual, a narrow path. It was almost invisible beneath layers of moss and fallen leaves. The trail curved gently between the trees, so old it seemed like nature had tried to erase it, but not completely. Anna crouched down and brushed the ground with her hand. Beneath the moss, there were stones, flat stones, placed carefully. This was not an animal trail. Someone had built this path a long time ago. Anna's heart beat faster. Who walked here before? She whispered. The forest gave no answer, but the wind moved softly through the branches above her, almost like a quiet invitation. So she followed the forgotten path. The deeper she walked, the stranger the forest became. The trees grew larger, older. Their roots twisted across the ground like ancient snakes. Some of them were so large they formed natural walls along the trail. Birds stopped singing. Even the insects were quiet. It was as if this part of the forest existed outside of time. Anna continued walking for what felt like an hour. Then the path began to change. The stones beneath the moss grew larger, more deliberate, more organized. This was no simple trail anymore. It was a road, and someone had built it with great care. But who? And why here? Anna looked ahead. The forest was growing darker, but something waited further inside. She could feel it. Something old, something hidden, and somehow, something meant for her to find. Chapter 8: Stones Beneath the Roots. The path eventually disappeared beneath a wall of tangled roots. Anna stopped. Before her stood the largest tree she had ever seen. Its trunk rose like a tower into the sky, disappearing into the thick canopy above. Massive roots spread outward across the ground, twisting and folding over one another like the arms of a giant. It looked ancient, older than the forest itself. Anna stepped closer. Something caught her eye. Between two enormous roots, she saw stone. Not natural stone, cut stone. She knelt down and pushed away the moss. Her breath caught. Beneath the roots, there were carvings, strange symbols etched into the surface. Lines, circles, shapes she did not recognize. The stone blocks formed a small wall, partially buried under soil and roots. It looked like the remains of a structure long forgotten. Anna brushed more dirt away. More stone appeared, then another piece, then another. This wasn't just a wall. It was part of something much larger. Her heart raced with excitement. Was there a village here? She wondered. Or something older. The roots had grown over the stone slowly across hundreds of years, wrapping around them like protective fingers. Nature had tried to reclaim the ruins, but it had not succeeded. Not completely. Anna stood and looked around. Once she noticed the first structure, she began seeing others. Small stone shapes hidden beneath the trees, broken pillars, half-buried stairs, fragments of walls. It was as if an entire place had been swallowed by the forest and forgotten by the world. Anna carefully stepped over the roots and moved deeper into the ruins. The ground beneath her feet changed. Instead of soft dirt, she felt solid stone. A wide platform slowly emerged from beneath layers of leaves and moss. At the center of the platform stood a single pillar. Unlike the others, this one was still standing, tall, unbroken. Its surface was covered with the same strange symbols. Anna reached out and touched the stone. It felt cold, but strangely alive. The moment her fingers brushed the carvings, the wind moved suddenly through the trees. Leaves rustled, branches creaked, and for a moment, Anna thought she heard a voice, not loud, not clear, just a whisper, ancient, soft, almost like the forest remembering something it had forgotten. Anna pulled her hand back. Her heart was pounding. "What is this place?" she whispered. The ruins said nothing, but the forest seemed to be waiting, as if there was still something more she had not discovered yet. And the path continued, beyond the roots, beyond the broken stones, further into the ancient forest. Chapter 9. The Temple of Silence. Anna followed the path deeper than she had ever gone before. The forest grew darker. The trees stood closer together, their branches blocking most of the sunlight. The air felt cooler here. Still, almost sacred. The path eventually opened into a wide clearing. Anna stopped immediately. In front of her stood something impossible. Ruins. Massive ruins. Stone walls rose from the ground like broken teeth. Pillars leaned at strange angles, cracked and worn by time. But even in its ruined state, the structure was magnificent. It had once been a temple. Anna walked slowly toward the entrance. Two enormous pillars guarded the doorway. Though damaged, they still stood tall. Carvings covered every surface, the same mysterious symbols she had seen earlier. But here they were larger, more detailed, more powerful. She stepped inside. The temperature dropped instantly. The temple interior was quiet, too quiet. Not even the wind reached this place. The floor was made of polished stone, now cracked with age. Moss crept between the tiles, and thin beams of sunlight slipped through holes in the broken ceiling above. At the center of the temple stood a circular stone altar. Anna approached it slowly. The altar was covered in carvings, different from the others. These symbols formed patterns that almost looked like writing. A language, but not one she knew. Anna traced the symbols gently with her fingers. Then the whisper returned, soft, distant, yet somehow clearer than before. Guardian. Anna froze. Her heart skipped. Had she imagined that? She looked around the empty temple. There was no one, no animals, no sound except her breathing. But the whisper came again. Guardian. The word echoed faintly through the silent hall. Anna stepped back slowly. Her mind raced. Guardian of what? She whispered. The temple did not answer, but the forest outside began to stir. Wind moved through the trees. Leaves rustled like distant voices, and the whisper returned one last time. older, stronger, waiting. Anna stood in the center of the ancient temple, and for the first time since entering the forest, she understood something. The dreams, the voice, the hidden path. None of it was random. The forest had been calling her, leading her, preparing her for this place, for this moment. Anna looked around the silent temple once more. Somewhere beneath the ruins, something ancient was still alive, and the forest had chosen her to find it. But this was only the beginning. The real secret of the temple had not yet been revealed. Chapter 10. The Deep Passage. The ruins were older than Anna first believed. When she had discovered them beneath the massive roots of the ancient trees, she thought they were simply the remains of an old temple, broken stones, fallen pillars, moss and silence. But the forest had other plans. The morning mist hung low between the trees as Anna stepped carefully through the ruins again. Something about the place felt unfinished, like a story missing its final pages. The voice she had heard before, the one that whispered through the wind, had returned. Look deeper. The words were soft, almost like an echo from the earth itself. Anna knelt beside one of the larger stones near the center of the ruined floor. At first it looked no different from the others, but when she brushed away the dirt, she noticed a thin circular groove carved around its edges. Her heartbeat quickened. This wasn't just a floor, she murmured. It was a door. With effort, she pushed against the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the stone shifted. Dust fell from its edges, and a cold breath of air rose from the darkness below. A hidden passage. Anna stared into the opening. A narrow stone staircase spiraled downward, disappearing into shadows. The forest above was quiet. Too quiet. The voice returned. The path has waited for you. Anna took a deep breath. Then she stepped inside. The air underground was colder and heavier. Each step echoed softly along the stone walls. Moss grew between the ancient bricks, glowing faintly in the dim light filtering from above. The deeper she walked, the older the place felt. This tunnel had not been built recently. It had been here for centuries, maybe longer. Anna ran her fingers along the wall as she descended. Strange patterns were carved into the stone, shapes that almost looked like branches twisting together. But they were not random. They were symbols, and they were everywhere. Chapter 11. A mark older than time. The staircase eventually opened into a long underground corridor. Anna stepped carefully into the chamber. The walls stretched far into the darkness, covered in carvings unlike anything she had seen before. Circles, lines, and shapes that resembled the roots of trees spreading across the stone. In the center of many carvings was the same symbol, a circle. Inside the circle were 3 branching lines. Anna froze. She had seen this before, not here, but in Willow Village. The old stone seal in the center of the village had nearly the same design. But this one was different. This one looked far older. The carvings here were deeper, more weathered, and more complex. Around the central circle were additional markings, smaller symbols forming a ring around the main seal. Anna stepped closer. As her fingers traced the ancient mark, a strange warmth spread through the stone. Suddenly the air around her changed. The corridor seemed to shift, and for a brief moment Anna saw something else. Not ruins, but a living temple. Torches burned along the walls. Voices echoed through the corridor. Figures wearing long robes stood around the seal, placing their hands against the stone as if performing a ritual. Anna gasped as the vision faded. What was that? The voice answered. A memory. Anna turned slowly. No one remembers this place. The whisper flowed gently through the chamber. The forest remembers. Anna looked again at the carvings. The deeper she studied them, the more she understood. This seal was not the one in Willow Village. This was older, much older. If the village seal protected the forest, then this one must have been the first. Chapter 12. The Circle of Protection. The corridor opened into a vast underground chamber. Anna stopped at the entrance, her breath caught in her throat. The room was enormous. Stone pillars rose from the ground like ancient tree trunks, supporting a ceiling lost in darkness. Moss and roots hung from above, breaking through the stone after centuries of silent growth. But at the center of the chamber was something far more important. A perfect circle carved into the floor. The seal. Anna slowly walked toward it. Even after hundreds, maybe thousands of years, the markings were still clear. The circle was surrounded by symbols carved deep into the stone floor, forming a pattern that resembled spreading branches, or perhaps a protective barrier. Anna knelt beside the seal. The moment her hand touched the center of the circle, the carvings began to glow faintly with soft green light. The chamber trembled gently. Images flooded her mind, a forest untouched by time, ancient guardians standing beneath towering trees, a ritual performed by those who protected the forest long before Willow Village even existed. This seal was the origin, the first protection placed upon the forest. And then Anna saw something else. The seal was weakening. Thin cracks spread along the edges of the circle. Parts of the carving had begun to fade. Time had not been kind to it. The voice returned again, quieter now. The seal is failing. Anna stood slowly. If it breaks. The voice did not finish the sentence, but Anna understood. Whatever had once been locked away by this ancient protection might soon return. She looked again at the glowing circle beneath her feet. For the first time since entering the forest, she felt the true weight of what was happening. The dreams, the voice, the ruins, none of it had been random. She had been led here. The forest had chosen her. And now the first seal had been found. But something deep beneath the earth was beginning to awaken, and the forest would soon need its guardian again. Chapter 13. The Lost Protector. The deeper Anna walked into the ancient forest, the quieter the world became. The wind that once whispered through the trees now felt heavier, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. After discovering the ancient seal beneath the ruins, Anna could no longer pretend that her dreams were only dreams. Something old was waking, and somehow it was connected to her. The underground chamber where she had discovered the seal was still fresh in her memory. The walls had been covered with ancient carvings, symbols older than any language she had ever seen. But one symbol appeared again and again, a figure standing among trees, a person holding a staff, a circle of light protecting the forest. Anna had assumed it was simply a symbol of protection, but the deeper she looked, the more she realized something strange. The figure carved into the stone did not look like anyone from her family. The clothing was different. The symbol on the staff was unfamiliar. This guardian was not one of hers. That night as Anna slept, the dreams returned again, but this time they were clearer. She was no longer watching the forest from above. She was standing inside it. The trees were younger then, thinner, but the forest already felt powerful and alive. And ahead of her, someone was standing beneath a massive oak tree. A man. He wore a long cloak made of dark green cloth, and in his hand he held a staff carved from twisted wood. A glowing mark burned faintly on his palm, the same mark Anna had. The man slowly turned. His eyes were calm, ancient, and when he spoke the forest seemed to listen. "The forest always chooses a guardian," he said softly. Anna felt a strange chill run through her body, because somehow she knew what he meant. She was not the first. Chapter 14. Memories of the First Watcher. The dreams did not stop. Each night, Anna saw more of the past, more of the guardian who came before her. His name, she learned, was Eldrick. Long before Willow Village existed, before roads or houses had ever touched the forest, Eldrick had been the one chosen to protect it. But his life had not been peaceful. The forest in those days had been young and wild. Creatures moved in the shadows. Old powers still slept beneath the earth. Eldrick had lived alone in a small wooden shelter near the center of the forest. From there he watched, protected, and listened to the voices of the trees. The forest spoke to him through wind, through leaves, through dreams, just like it spoke to Anna now. One night in the vision, Anna saw Eldrick kneeling beside a glowing spring deep within the forest. Water shimmered with faint blue light. The heart of the forest. Eldrick placed his hand into the water. The glowing mark on his palm burned brighter. The balance must remain, he whispered. Anna realized then that being a guardian was not about power. It was about balance. The forest was alive, but it was fragile. If something dark disturbed it, everything could fall. And that was exactly what happened. One evening, the forest suddenly changed. The sky turned red at sunset. Birds fled the trees. Animals ran deeper into the woods. Something had entered the forest. Something ancient. Something hungry. Eldrick stood at the edge of the clearing, gripping his staff tightly. From the darkness beyond the trees, a shadow moved. It was not human, not animal. It was something else entirely. The forest trembled. Even the ancient trees bent away from it. Anna felt fear fill her chest as she watched the vision unfold, because she understood something terrible. The enemy Eldrick faced had never truly disappeared. Chapter 15. A Sacrifice Long Ago. The final vision came to Anna during the deepest part of the night. It was the moment the forest nearly died. Darkness had spread through the woods like poison. Trees withered. Streams turned black. The shadow creature moved deeper and deeper toward the forest's heart. If it reached the glowing spring, everything would be lost. Eldrick knew this. He stood alone at the edge of the sacred clearing, facing the growing darkness. The creature emerged slowly from the shadows. Its shape twisted like smoke. Its eyes glowed like dying stars. Anna could feel its presence even inside the dream. Cold, empty, hungry. Eldrick raised his staff. The glowing mark on his hand began to burn brighter and brighter. Light spread across the clearing. The trees began to glow faintly, as if they were answering his call. "The forest gave me life," Eldrick said quietly. "Now I return it." Anna suddenly realized what he meant. This was not a battle he expected to survive. The creature rushed forward, a wave of darkness swallowing the clearing, and Eldrick stepped into it. Light exploded across the forest. Roots burst from the ground. Ancient power surged through the trees. The very earth seemed to awaken. The light wrapped around the shadow creature like chains. And then everything went silent. When the light faded, the creature was gone. But so was Eldrick. In his place stood a massive stone circle, the first seal. The same seal Anna had discovered beneath the ruins. It had not been built. It had been created. From sacrifice, from the life of the first guardian. The forest had survived, but its protector had been lost. The dream slowly faded. Anna woke suddenly, sitting upright in her bed. The room was silent, but her hand was glowing. The mark burned softly on her palm, the same mark Eldrick had carried, and for the first time, Anna understood the truth. Being the guardian was never meant to be easy. The forest always needed someone to protect it, someone willing to stand against the darkness, someone willing to sacrifice everything. Anna looked out the window toward the ancient forest. The wind moved through the trees again, and this time, It sounded almost like a warning, because if the enemy Eldrick had sealed away was beginning to return, then Anna's story was only just beginning. Chapter 16. A Darkness Below. The forest had never been this quiet before. Anna stood near the entrance of the ancient ruins, holding the small lantern she had brought from home. The faint light barely pushed back the darkness around her. Below the ruins was a staircase carved directly into the stone. She had discovered it only hours ago. The steps led downward, far deeper than she expected. A cold wind slowly rose from below. Not a natural wind. It felt like the breath of something sleeping. Anna hesitated for a moment. The voice she had heard in the forest before, the mysterious whisper that had guided her, was silent now. But she could feel something calling her. Not a voice, a feeling, a pull from the darkness below. She tightened her grip on the lantern and began walking down. Step after step, the air grew colder. The stone walls around her were covered with ancient carvings, symbols, strange creatures, and warriors holding staffs of light. The deeper she went, the older the carvings looked. Some were so worn that they were barely visible. Finally, the staircase ended. Anna stepped into a vast underground chamber. Her lantern light revealed enormous stone pillars rising toward a ceiling lost in darkness. The chamber felt ancient, older than the ruins above, older than Willow Village. At the center of the chamber was a massive stone circle carved into the floor. Symbols surrounded it, protection symbols, the same ones she had seen near the first seal. But these were different. They were broken, cracked. Some parts had completely collapsed. Anna slowly approached the center, and then she saw it. A deep pit, perfectly circular, carved directly into the stone. The darkness inside the pit seemed endless. Her lantern light could not reach the bottom. A chill ran down her spine. For a moment, Anna thought she heard something, a sound, very faint, like something breathing, from deep below the earth. Chapter 17. The Creature in the Depths. Anna quickly stepped back from the pit. Her heart was racing. She told herself it was just the wind, just echoes from the tunnels below. But the carvings around the chamber told a different story. She raised her lantern and examined the walls more carefully. The carvings showed scenes from a forgotten age. In the first image, a peaceful forest stretched across the land. Huge trees, rivers, animals roaming freely. Then the next carving showed something arriving, a dark shape rising from the ground, its body twisted like living shadow, its eyes glowing like fire. Where it moved, the trees withered. The rivers turned dark, and the sky above the forest became black. Anna stared at the image. She felt a deep unease growing inside her. In the next carving, people appeared, the first guardians. They stood in a circle around the creature, holding staffs of light, the same staff she had seen in her dreams. They were trying to seal the creature. But the final carvings showed something terrible. Many of the guardians fell. The creature was powerful, too powerful. Only one guardian remained standing. The last guardian raised his staff toward the sky. Light exploded across the forest. Mountains shook, and the creature was forced deep underground, sealed, buried beneath the earth forever. Or at least, that was what they hoped. Anna slowly lowered the lantern. Her mind was racing. The first guardian, she whispered. He sealed this thing down here. She looked again at the broken protection circle on the floor. If this was the original seal, then something had damaged it. Something had weakened it. A small piece of stone suddenly fell into the pit. Clink, clink, clink. The sound echoed downward. And then silence. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then Anna heard it again, breathing, louder now, slow, heavy. Something deep below was moving. The ground beneath her feet trembled slightly. The ancient seal was failing. Chapter 18, Shadows Rising Again. Anna ran her hand over the cracked symbols on the stone floor. The ancient magic was fading. She could feel it. The protection circle that had once held the creature in place was no longer complete. Something had broken it. Or maybe time itself had weakened it. Suddenly, the lantern flame flickered violently. The chamber grew colder. A dark mist slowly began rising from the pit. Anna stepped backward. Her heart pounded in her chest. The mist curled through the air like smoke, but it moved with purpose, like it was alive. Then the ground shook again, this time stronger. A deep sound echoed from the depths below. Not breathing, not wind. A growl, low, ancient, angry. Anna felt the sound in her bones. The creature was waking up. The carvings had warned of this moment. If the seal ever weakened, the darkness would rise again. Anna looked around the chamber. Her lantern light flashed across another set of carvings she had not noticed before. These carvings were different. They showed a new guardian, a young figure standing where the first guardian once stood, holding the same staff of light, standing alone before the darkness. Anna felt her breath catch. The carving looked like her. Not exactly, but close enough that her heart skipped a beat. Was this a prophecy? The voice she had heard before suddenly returned, soft but urgent. The forest chose you. Anna froze. The seal is breaking, the voice continued. You must restore it. How? Anna whispered. The voice answered with only one sentence. You must become the guardian. Suddenly, the dark mist exploded upward from the pit. The shadows twisted together into massive shapes. Claws, eyes, a monstrous silhouette rising from the abyss. Anna stumbled backward. The lantern fell from her hand. The flame flickered wildly across the chamber walls. For one brief moment, the shadows formed a face, ancient, terrifying, awake. Then the mist collapsed back into the pit. Silence returned. The chamber was still again. But Anna knew the truth now. The enemy was no longer sleeping, and the forest was running out of time. She slowly picked up the lantern. Her hands were shaking. Above her, far beyond the ruins, the forest wind began to howl through the trees. Something had changed. Something ancient had begun to rise again, and Anna was the only one who could stop it. Chapter 19. The day the war began. Long before Willow Village was ever built, before the quiet paths and gentle rivers that Anna knew, the forest was a place of terrible power. Few people remembered it now, but the forest had once been the center of a war between humans and something far older than humanity itself. The story began on a morning that seemed perfectly peaceful. Mist hung between the towering trees. Birds called softly from the branches. The forest looked calm, almost welcoming. But deep underground, beneath layers of ancient stone and tangled roots, something stirred. For centuries, the creature had slept. It had been bound by ancient magic, sealed away by the first guardian and the spirits of the forest. But seals weaken with time, and that morning, the first crack appeared. Far below the earth, a deep rumbling echoed through the darkness. Roots trembled, stone cracked. Something enormous shifted in the shadows. The creature had awakened. At first, the forest tried to resist. The wind rose suddenly, whispering through the leaves. Animals fled deeper into the woods. The rivers slowed as if the land itself was holding its breath. But the creature was patient and angry. It had not forgotten the world that had imprisoned it, not the forest, and certainly not the humans. That same morning, the first guardian stood on a high ridge overlooking the valley. He had watched the forest his entire life. He knew every trail, every river, every ancient tree. But what he felt that day was different. A cold presence beneath the ground, a darkness that should not exist. The spirits of the forest spoke to him in uneasy whispers. The creature is waking. For a long moment, the guardian stood still. He had hoped this day would never come. The ancient enemy had been sealed generations before his birth. But the forest remembered, and the forest was afraid. The guardian closed his eyes. Then he gave the order. Messengers ran through the nearby villages. Signal fires were lit across the hills. Drums echoed through the valleys. The war had begun. At first, many humans did not believe the warning. The creature was only a legend, a story told to children. But legends sometimes hide terrible truths. By nightfall, the first signs appeared. Trees near the center of the forest began to rot overnight. Streams turned dark, and animals fled in massive numbers. Then the ground split open. A roar rose from the depths of the forest. It was a sound so deep and ancient that it seemed to shake the sky itself. People across the valley heard it, and in that moment, everyone understood. The legend was real, and the forest was no longer safe. Chapter 20. Flames Through the Woods. What followed became known in ancient records as the War of the Forest. It lasted many months and nearly destroyed everything. Humans built defensive camps along the forest's edge. Soldiers, hunters, and villagers all joined together, not because they wanted war, but because they had no choice. The creature did not simply awaken. It began to spread. Darkness crept outward from the forest's heart. Trees twisted into unnatural shapes. Animals became violent and strange. The forest itself seemed to turn against the people who once lived beside it. The first battles were chaos. No one knew exactly what they were fighting. Some warriors claimed they saw massive shadows moving between the trees. Others said the ground itself opened beneath their feet. Many simply disappeared. The guardian tried to guide the people. He spoke with the spirits of the forest. He studied the ancient seals. He searched for a way to stop the creature before it grew too strong. But each day, the darkness spread farther. Eventually, the humans made a terrible decision. They would burn the forest. It was the only way they believed they could stop the creature's advance. So one night, the fires began. Torches were thrown into the dry brush. Flames climbed the ancient trunks of towering trees. Smoke filled the sky. The forest burned like a sea of fire. Animals ran screaming through the woods. Branches cracked and fell. Entire hillsides glowed red beneath the flames. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. The spreading darkness slowed. The creature retreated deeper into the forest. But the cost was devastating. Much of the ancient forest was destroyed. Places that had existed for thousands of years were reduced to ash, and the spirits of the forest cried out in grief. The guardian watched the fires from a distant hill. He knew the truth. Burning the forest would never defeat the creature. It was older than the trees, older than the soil, older than humanity itself, and now it was angry. Deep within the burning woods, the creature finally emerged. The ground shattered as something enormous rose from the depths. Eyes like burning embers opened in the darkness. A body made of shadow and stone stretched across the forest floor. The creature roared, and the war entered its final stage. Chapter 21, The Final Stand. By the time the fires died down, the forest was barely recognizable. Smoke drifted across blackened land. Broken trees lay scattered like fallen giants, and the creature had grown stronger. Every step it took shook the earth. Every roar sent waves of fear across the battlefield. Human warriors fought bravely, but weapons meant little against something so ancient. Many villages had already been abandoned. The surviving people gathered behind the guardian. They all knew the same thing. If the creature was not stopped now, The entire world beyond the forest would fall next. So the guardian prepared for the final battle. He returned to the oldest temple in the forest, a place that had existed long before human settlements. Carved into the stone floor was a massive circle of ancient symbols, the same symbols Anna would one day discover. The circle of protection. It was not just a seal, it was a prison, but it required something powerful to activate it, something alive, something willing. The guardian understood what needed to be done. He stood alone in the center of the temple. Outside, the creature approached. Each step shook the ruins. The air grew colder. The darkness thickened. But the guardian did not run. He placed his hand on the ancient stone. The symbols around him began to glow. A faint green light spread across the temple floor. The spirits of the forest gathered. Wind rushed through the broken walls. Leaves swirled through the air like thousands of tiny stars. The creature reached the temple. Its massive form towered above the ruins. For a moment, the forest went silent. Guardian and monster faced each other. One ancient, one human, but both bound to the fate of the forest. The creature attacked. Shadow and stone crashed into the temple. The ground split. Columns shattered. But the guardian held his ground. The glowing circle grew brighter. The ancient symbols flared with power. And with one final act of courage, the guardian completed the seal. A wave of light exploded outward from the temple. Roots erupted from the earth. Stone pillars rose from the ground. The creature roared as the forest itself wrapped around it. The seal closed, slowly, painfully. The creature was dragged back into the depths beneath the forest, buried once again beneath layers of earth and magic. The war was over, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The guardian had given his life to power the seal. His body turned to stone within the circle. His spirit became part of the forest he had sworn to protect. And over time, the people rebuilt. Trees slowly returned. The forest healed, but the ancient temple remained hidden beneath the roots. And the seal remained in place, waiting for the day when the creature might awaken again. Chapter 22: Silence After Destruction. When the war finally ended, the forest fell into a silence deeper than anything it had known before. For days, smoke drifted slowly above the blackened trees. The ground was still warm from the fires that had spread during the battle. What had once been a living, breathing forest now looked like the remains of a forgotten world. Broken trunks lay across the earth. Ash covered the roots of ancient trees. Many of the oldest guardians of the forest, trees that had stood for centuries, had fallen during the great battle. The creatures of the forest had survived, but they moved carefully now. Even the wind seemed quieter. It was as if the forest itself was mourning. In the center of the battlefield stood the place where the first guardian had made his final stand. The ground there was different, not burned, not broken. Instead, a strange circle of untouched earth remained. It was the place where the ancient seal had been created. Long ago, when the creature from the deep had risen, it threatened not only the forest, but the balance of the entire world. The first guardian had known that defeating the creature would not be enough. The creature was too old, too powerful, so the guardian had done something no one had ever done before. He bound the creature with the power of the forest itself. Using ancient symbols carved into stone, he sealed the creature deep beneath the earth. But such power demanded a price. The guardian gave his own life to complete the seal, and when the final symbol was carved, the war ended instantly. The creature disappeared, the flames died, and the forest fell silent. For many years afterward, the people of Willow Village returned to rebuild what had been lost. They planted new trees. They cleared the burned land. They tried to heal the forest, but some wounds were too deep to repair. Even as the forest slowly returned, something inside it had changed. The balance that once existed between the forest and the world beyond it was no longer the same. Chapter 23: The Cost of Victory. Peace had returned, but peace, the elders would later say, came with a hidden cost. The seal created by the first guardian was powerful, but it was never meant to last forever. The ancient magic that bound the creature required something to sustain it. The life of the guardian had been the final piece. Without him, the forest itself had to carry the burden. Over the years, the forest grew again. New trees replaced the fallen ones. Animals returned to their homes. Rivers flowed again through the valleys. But the elders began to notice strange things. The seasons sometimes arrived too early or too late. Storms would suddenly appear without warning. And sometimes, deep within the forest, people reported hearing distant echoes. Not voices, not animals. Something older, something that seemed to come from beneath the earth. The elders understood what this meant. The seal was holding, but it was weakening. The sacrifice of the first guardian had bought time, but time was not the same as balance. The forest had once been protected by a living guardian, someone who could guide its power and maintain the harmony between nature and the ancient forces hidden within it. Now that balance was fragile. For generations, the story of the first guardian was passed down. But as years became decades, and decades became centuries, the truth slowly faded. Many people began to believe the story was only a legend, a myth told to children. The seal beneath the forest was forgotten. The ancient enemy beneath the earth was forgotten. And the role of the guardian became nothing more than a story. But the forest never forgot. Deep beneath the roots of the oldest trees, the seal still waited, and the power holding it together was slowly weakening. Chapter 24: A World Out of Balance. Anna stood silently in the ruins. The visions had faded, but the feeling remained. She now understood what had happened here long ago. The war, the creature, the sacrifice of the first guardian. The forest had survived, but it had never truly healed. Anna looked around the ancient temple. The symbols carved into the stone walls were the same ones she had seen in her dreams. Circles, lines, marks representing the ancient seal. But something was wrong. Several of the symbols were cracked. Pieces of stone had fallen away over the centuries. The temple itself had been slowly collapsing, which meant something far more dangerous. If the temple was breaking, then the seal might be breaking too. Anna felt a sudden chill run through her body. The voice she had heard before returned, softer than ever. A whisper carried through the ruins. The balance is fading. Anna closed her eyes. She could feel it now. Something deep beneath the forest. Something ancient. Something waiting. The sacrifice of the first guardian had stopped the creature once, but that sacrifice had not restored the balance of the world. It had only delayed the return of darkness. Anna slowly opened her eyes. For the first time, she understood what her dreams meant. She had not been chosen to discover the past. She had been chosen to protect the future, because if the seal continued to weaken, the ancient enemy buried beneath the forest would rise again, and this time there might be no guardian left to stop it. The wind moved through the ruins. The trees above whispered softly, almost like a warning. The balance of the forest had been broken long ago, and now it was beginning to break again. Anna took a slow breath. Whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain. The story of the forest was not over. In fact, it had only just begun. Chapter 25: The Bloodline Mark. The forest was quiet that morning. A thin mist drifted between the ancient trees, wrapping the woods in a pale silver light. Anna stood near the old ruins where the stone seal rested, beneath the tangled roots of a massive oak. For days she had felt something strange growing inside her, an invisible pull toward the deeper parts of the forest. It was not fear, it was recognition, as if the forest itself had been waiting for her. Anna placed her hand against the cold stone of the ancient seal. The carved symbols glowed faintly, the same strange marks she had seen in her dreams. Then suddenly, a sharp warmth spread through her palm. Anna gasped. A glowing symbol appeared on her wrist, burning softly like a living mark beneath her skin. The mark was circular, made of twisting lines that resembled tree branches and flowing roots. It looked ancient, older than the ruins, older than Willow Village. Anna stared at it, her heart racing. What is this? The wind stirred through the trees. For a moment, the forest seemed to whisper. Then the voice returned, the same mysterious voice that had guided her before. Soft, ancient, patient. Long ago, the voice said, when the world was young, the forest chose its protector. Images filled Anna's mind. She saw the first guardian, the ancient figure she had glimpsed in her visions. A warrior standing beneath towering trees, the forest glowing around him. But something was different. The guardian was not born with the power. He was chosen. The forest itself had given him its strength to protect the balance between the natural world and the creatures that lived within it. But that power came with a cost. The guardian could not simply be replaced. The forest needed a bloodline, a living connection. So the first guardian made a vow. His power would pass through generations, carried by those who shared his blood. Not kings, not warriors, but those who listened to the forest. The glowing mark on Anna's wrist pulsed again. The bloodline mark, proof that the forest had chosen her. Anna slowly closed her hand. So this was never just a dream. The wind moved gently through the leaves, almost like a quiet answer. No, it was never a dream. It was destiny. Chapter 26. The Power of the Forest. Later that evening, Anna walked deeper into the forest than she had ever gone before. The trees here were enormous. Their trunks were thick with moss, their branches stretching high into the fading light. This place felt older, wilder, more alive. As she stepped into a clearing, the mark on her wrist began to glow again, stronger this time. Suddenly the forest reacted. The wind shifted, the leaves rustled. The ground beneath her feet seemed to pulse with quiet energy. Anna froze. What's happening? The voice returned once more. You are beginning to awaken. The mark burned brighter, and then Anna felt it. Power. Not like electricity, not like fire. Something deeper, something ancient. She could feel the life of the forest around her, the movement of the roots beneath the soil, the slow breathing of the trees, the hidden animals watching from the shadows. It was as if every living thing in the forest was connected through an invisible network, and somehow she could feel it. Anna reached out toward a small broken branch lying on the ground. Without thinking, she focused on it. The branch slowly lifted, hovering slightly above the earth. Anna's eyes widened. Undyne did that? But the voice spoke again. The forest does not give power freely. The branch dropped suddenly. Anna staggered slightly as the energy faded. Then why give it to me at all? She asked. Silence filled the clearing. Then the voice answered, because the balance is breaking. Anna remembered the ancient creatures sleeping beneath the ruins. The war, the destruction of the forest long ago. Something had been sealed away, something powerful, and now it was waking. The voice continued. The guardian does not control the forest. The guardian listens to it. The mark on her wrist dimmed slowly. Anna looked around the clearing. For the first time, she understood something important. This power was not hers. It belonged to the forest. She was only its protector. Chapter 27. The Hidden Responsibility. Night fell quickly. The forest grew darker and quieter, but Anna remained in the clearing. The weight of what she had learned pressed heavily on her thoughts. She was not just someone who had strange dreams. She was the next guardian, which meant the safety of the forest, and perhaps even the world, rested on her shoulders. Hannah sat on a fallen log. "What if I'm not strong enough?" she whispered. The wind rustled the trees again. The voice returned, softer now. The first guardian once asked the same question. Anna looked up. He did? Yes. The vision appeared again in her mind. The first guardian standing at the edge of the ancient war, the forest burning, the creature rising from the depths. He had been afraid, just like her, but he had still chosen to fight, because protecting the balance was more important than fear. Anna slowly stood. So being the guardian isn't about power. The voice answered, no, it is about responsibility. The balance of the world was fragile. If the ancient creature awakened again, the forest could fall. And if the forest fell, something far worse might follow. Anna looked down at the glowing mark on her wrist. It no longer frightened her. It felt like a promise made generations ago, a promise she had now inherited. The forest grew quiet again, but before the voice faded, it spoke one final warning. The darkness beneath the forest is stirring. Anna's heart tightened. The ancient enemy is awakening. Far below the earth, deep beneath the ruins, something moved, something that had slept for centuries, and it had begun to sense the guardian's return. Anna stared into the darkness of the trees. For the first time, she understood the truth. The war that had nearly destroyed the forest long ago was not over. It was only beginning again. And this time, she was the guardian. Chapter 28. The Weight of the Role. The forest had never felt so quiet. Anna stood at the edge of the ancient ruins, the moss-covered stones glowing faintly beneath the soft silver light of the moon. The wind moved slowly through the tall trees, whispering through the leaves like a language older than the world itself. Just days ago, everything had changed. The visions, the memories of the first guardian, the awakening of the ancient power buried beneath the forest. Anna wrapped her arms around herself as a cold breeze brushed against her skin. She knew the truth now. The guardian was not just a protector of the forest. The guardian was the balance between life and destruction, and that balance came with a cost. Anna slowly walked deeper into the ruins. The stone circle she had discovered earlier stood quietly in the center of the clearing. Ancient symbols carved into the stone. Pillars glowed faintly as if responding to her presence. The moment she stepped inside the circle, the ground beneath her feet vibrated softly. The forest was speaking again. A warm energy moved through the air, surrounding her like an invisible current. Then the voice returned, soft, ancient, patient, guardian. Anna closed her eyes. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. For a moment, the forest remained silent. Then images filled her mind. She saw the first guardian again, a young man standing alone in the same forest centuries ago. The world around him burned with war. Humans fought creatures born from darkness. Fire spread through the trees. The forest was dying, and the guardian had made a choice. He sealed the ancient creature beneath the earth, but the seal demanded something from him in return: his strength, his life, his future. Anna's eyes opened quickly as the vision faded. Her heart was racing. So every guardian pays the price? She asked quietly. The wind shifted through the trees. and the voice answered, "Yes." Anna lowered her head. Her mind felt heavy. Her family had carried this role for generations, yet no one had ever told her the full truth. They had protected her, but now she understood why. Because once you knew the truth, you could never walk away. She looked up at the stars shining through the branches above. The forest had chosen her, but that did not mean she was ready. Chapter 29. A Dangerous Decision. The next morning, sunlight filtered softly through the forest canopy. Anna sat beside the small stream near Willow Village, watching the water flow over smooth stones. Everything looked normal. Birds flew between the trees. Children's voices echoed faintly from the distant village. Life continued as if nothing had changed. But inside Anna's mind, a storm was growing. She knew the ancient creature beneath the forest was waking again. The ruins had confirmed it. The seal that had protected the world for centuries was weakening. Sooner or later, the forest would need another guardian to strengthen it. And that guardian was her. But the choice still remained. Anna picked up a small stone and tossed it into the water. Ripples spread across the stream. "What happens if I refuse?" she asked quietly. The wind answered, not with words, but with a vision. Anna suddenly saw the forest years from now. The trees were blackened, the sky was red, the ground cracked and empty. The ancient creature had awakened, and without a guardian, nothing could stop it. The vision disappeared. Anna breathed heavily. She understood. This was not just about the forest. It was about the world. Still, fear crept into her heart, because becoming the guardian meant giving up a normal life, no freedom to leave, and perhaps one day, the same sacrifice the first guardian had made. Anna stood up slowly. "I didn't choose this," she whispered. The forest rustled softly, but deep inside she knew the truth. Maybe she hadn't chosen the role, but the role had chosen her. Footsteps approached from behind. Anna turned to see Elias stepping out from the trees. He studied her face carefully. "You look like someone who hasn't slept," he said. Anna forced a small smile. "Something like that." Elias sat beside her. "The forest is changing," he said quietly. "I can feel it too." Anna looked at him. "You can?" He nodded. "Something is waking up." She hesitated, then spoke. "There's an ancient creature buried beneath the forest, and the guardian's job is to keep it sealed." Elias didn't look surprised. "Then you're the guardian." Anna stared at him. "How did you know?" He smiled faintly. "You're the only person I've ever seen the forest listen to." Anna looked down at the water. "I don't know if I can do it." Elias picked up a leaf drifting on the stream. "You see this?" he asked. Anna nodded. "The leaf didn't choose to fall," he said. "But now, the river will carry it somewhere important." Anna frowned slightly. "So I don't have a choice?" Elias shook his head. "I'm saying the forest chose someone strong enough." Anna felt a quiet warmth in her chest. Maybe the forest believed in her, even if she didn't believe in herself yet. But the hardest part still remained, making the decision. Chapter 30. The Price of the Oath. That night, Anna returned to the ancient stone circle. The forest was darker than usual. Clouds covered the moon, and the air felt heavy. Anna stepped inside the circle. The glowing symbols on the pillars brightened instantly. The forest recognized her. Wind curled around her feet as the ancient voice spoke again. "Guardian." Anna lifted her head. "I understand the responsibility now," she said. The air pulsed softly. "But I also know there is a price." Silence filled the clearing. Then the ground beneath her began to glow. The center of the stone circle slowly opened, revealing a chamber below. Ancient roots wrapped around a glowing seal carved into stone. The original seal. Anna stepped closer. Power radiated from it, but beneath that power, something was wrong. A crack. The seal was weakening. Something below was pushing back. If nothing is done, Anna whispered, it will break. The voice answered, to renew the seal, the guardian must bind their life to the forest. Anna's breath caught. What does that mean? You will protect the forest, but the forest will claim part of you. Images flashed through her mind, guardians before her, bound to the forest, never leaving, some fading into it completely. Anna closed her eyes. Fear rose inside her, but so did something stronger. She thought of Willow Village, the people, the forest, the world beyond. All of it depended on this moment. Anna knelt beside the glowing seal. If I take the oath, I can never leave, she said. Yes, and one day, I may lose everything. Yes. Anna took a slow breath. Doubt flickered, then faded, because she already knew the answer. This was never about her. Anna placed her hand on the seal. I accept the oath. The forest exploded with light. Wind roared through the trees. The symbols burned brighter than ever. Energy surged through her body. She gasped. Power flooded into her, and at the same time, something left her. A piece of her life now belonged to the forest. The seal beneath her hand strengthened. The crack slowly closed. Deep below, something roared, then fell silent. The balance was restored. The wind softened. The light faded. Anna stood slowly. Everything felt different. The forest felt closer, alive. She could feel it breathing beneath her feet. The guardian had returned. But Anna knew this was only the beginning, because the creature still lived below, and one day it would rise again. Anna looked up. The clouds parted. Stars filled the sky. For the first time she felt calm. She had chosen her path, even if the price was heavy, because protecting the world was worth it. And deep within the forest, the wind whispered, Guardian. Chapter 31. Tremors Beneath the Earth. The forest had always been quiet at night. Not silent, never silent. There were always sounds, the whisper of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the wind moving through ancient branches. But tonight felt different. Anna stood at the edge of the clearing behind her house, staring into the dark forest. The moon cast a pale silver light over the towering trees. She could feel it again, that strange pressure in the air. For weeks the forest had felt uneasy. The wind carried unfamiliar scents, animals moved restlessly, and the ancient trees seemed to whisper warnings too faint for others to hear. But Anna could hear them. Since discovering the hidden ruins and the ancient seal beneath the forest, her connection to the land had grown stronger, and tonight, something was wrong. A deep rumble rolled through the ground beneath her feet. Anna froze. At first she thought it was thunder, but the sky was clear. Then it came again, a low vibration, like something massive shifting far beneath the earth. The soil trembled. Leaves fell from still branches. Anna knelt and pressed her hand against the ground. The earth was warm, too warm. Another tremor followed, stronger this time. Birds burst into the sky, fleeing in panic. Anna stood quickly. This can't be happening, she whispered. Her heart raced as the visions returned. A great battle, flames consuming the forest, the first guardian standing alone against a rising darkness. She had hoped they were only memories, but now they felt like warnings. The ground shook again. Branches creaked as the forest shifted. A fox darted across the path, vanishing into the shadows. The animals knew. Anna turned toward the deeper forest, where the ancient ruins lay, hidden beneath the oldest trees. The tremors were coming from there, from the place of the original seal. If the seal is weakening, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Something beneath the forest was waking, and the forest was warning her. Anna grabbed her lantern and stepped onto the narrow trail. The forest had protected her family for generations. Now it was her turn. As she walked deeper into the darkness, the ground trembled again. This time, it felt like a heartbeat, slow, ancient, rising from far below the earth. Something was moving, something that had been sleeping for centuries, and it was beginning to wake. Chapter 32. The Shadow Returns. The deeper Anna walked into the forest, the colder the air became. Her lantern flickered softly, casting golden light across the ancient path. The trail twisted between towering trees whose roots rose from the ground, like the backs of sleeping giants. Anna had walked this path many times before, but tonight it felt unfamiliar. The forest felt tense, waiting. Another tremor shook the ground. Anna grabbed a nearby tree trunk to steady herself. Cracks appeared in the dry soil along the path. Tiny stones rolled down into the dark openings. The forest was changing. The balance was shifting. Anna hurried forward. Soon the familiar shape of the ruined temple appeared between the trees. Massive stone pillars leaned at strange angles, half swallowed by roots and moss. At the center of the ruins lay the ancient staircase that led down to the underground chamber, the chamber where the first seal had been created. Anna approached slowly. The tremors were stronger here. Each vibration pulsed through the stone floor like a warning drum. She lifted her lantern and looked down into the dark staircase. For a moment she hesitated. Then she took a deep breath and began descending. The air underground felt heavy and warm. Strange symbols carved into the stone walls glowed faintly as Anna walked past them. These were the same symbols she had seen during her visions, the symbols of protection, the symbols of balance. But tonight, their glow was fading. At the bottom of the staircase, the underground chamber opened before her. The ancient seal lay in the center of the floor, a massive circle carved into the stone thousands of years ago. Anna stepped closer. Her heart stopped. Cracks, long dark fractures spread across the surface of the seal, like lightning frozen in stone. The symbols carved into the circle flickered weakly. The protective energy that once filled the chamber had grown thin. Another tremor shook the room. This time dust fell from the ceiling, and from somewhere deep below the seal, a sound echoed upward. Not a roar, not a growl, but something worse, a slow grinding movement, like something enormous dragging itself through ancient stone. Anna's breath caught in her throat. The creature from the ancient war, the enemy the first guardian had sealed away. It was still there, still trapped beneath the forest, but not for long. The seal was weakening, and the creature beneath the earth was beginning to stir. The shadow that had once nearly destroyed the forest was returning. Chapter 33. Cracks in the Ancient Seal. Anna knelt beside the ancient seal. Her lantern light trembled across the cracked stone. The fractures were spreading, slowly, relentlessly. She reached out and placed her hand on one of the glowing symbols. The moment her skin touched the stone, a surge of energy rushed through her body. Images flooded her mind. The first guardian, standing in this same chamber centuries ago. The forest burning outside, the sky dark with smoke, and beneath the earth, the monstrous creature pushing upward from the depths. The first guardian had known there was only one way to stop it. A seal powerful enough to trap the creature forever. But such power always came with a price. The guardian had poured their life force into the ancient circle. The forest had lent its strength, and together they created the seal that protected the world. But seals are not eternal. Over time, their power fades. Anna opened her eyes. The symbol beneath her hand pulsed weakly. The forest's energy was fading. Another violent tremor shook the chamber. A loud cracking sound echoed through the room. One of the largest fractures across the seal widened. From deep below the earth, a dark mist began to seep through the crack. Anna quickly stepped back. The air grew colder. The lantern flame flickered wildly. The mist twisted upward like smoke, forming shifting shapes that seemed almost alive. Then a deep voice echoed faintly from below. Not words, not language, just a sound, ancient, hungry, and full of hatred. Anna felt the forest reacting around her. The trees above ground groaned in the wind. Animals fled through the undergrowth. The balance of the forest was breaking. The seal was failing, and if it broke completely, the creatures sealed beneath the forest would rise again. Anna stood slowly. Fear tightened in her chest. But beneath that fear, something stronger began to grow. Resolve. The forest had chosen her. The blood of the guardian flowed through her veins. She was the protector now. If the ancient seal was weakening, then she would have to find a way to restore it, or create a new one. Because if she failed, the darkness beneath the forest would finally be free. Anna looked once more at the cracked seal. The mist continued to rise slowly from the fractures, and far below the earth, something massive shifted, waiting, growing stronger, preparing to rise. The ancient enemy was waking, and the true battle for the forest was about to begin. Chapter 34: Truth from the Past. The forest was quiet that night, not the peaceful quiet Anna had grown used to, but a deeper silence, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Anna stood in the ancient ruins beneath the massive oak tree. The symbols carved into the stone walls glowed faintly, pulsing with a soft green light. For days the tremors had been getting stronger. The ancient seal was weakening. Anna knew the forest was trying to tell her something. Suddenly the wind stopped. The leaves froze in place. And then the voice returned, not as a whisper this time, but clear, ancient, powerful. It is time for you to see the truth. The ground beneath Anna shimmered. The ruins disappeared, and the forest around her changed. The trees became younger, smaller. The air smelled of smoke and burning wood. Distant echoes of shouting filled the air. Anna realized she was seeing the past. Hundreds of years ago, in front of her stood a man wearing simple armor made of leather and metal. His eyes were tired but strong. In his hands was a staff made from the same ancient oak that still stood. Above the ruins, the forest itself seemed to respond to him. Leaves moved when he moved. Roots shifted beneath the soil. Animals gathered silently around him. Anna felt it instantly. This man was the first guardian. The voice of the forest spoke again. Long before Willow Village existed, the world nearly lost its balance. The vision changed. Darkness spread across the forest like a living shadow. Trees withered, rivers turned black, and from beneath the earth, something ancient began to rise, a creature older than any human memory. It fed on fear, on destruction, on imbalance. The first guardian had been chosen, not because he sought power, but because he was the only one who could hear the forest. The forest had chosen him, just as it had chosen Anna. But the war that followed nearly destroyed everything. Flames consumed the woods. Humans fought desperately, and the creature grew stronger with every moment of chaos. Anna watched as the first guardian walked alone into the heart of the darkness. He knew the truth. He could not destroy the creature, but he could seal it away at a terrible cost. The vision faded. Anna fell to her knees in the ruins. Her heart was racing. Now she finally understood. The guardian's duty was never about power. It was about sacrifice. Chapter 35: The Origin of the Guardian. The ruins trembled again, but this time the light grew brighter. The ancient symbols on the walls began to glow like stars. Anna felt the forest itself awakening around her. Roots beneath the earth moved slowly, like veins carrying energy through the land. The voice of the forest spoke once more. You must know how the Guardians began? Another vision unfolded, long before the war, before the creature, before the first Guardian. The forest was alive in a different way. Every tree was connected, every river carried energy, every living thing shared the same balance. But humans had begun expanding beyond the forest. Cities were growing. The land was changing. The balance of nature was shifting. The forest understood something important. It could not protect itself forever. It needed a bridge, a protector who could understand both worlds, human and forest. So the forest created something new, a bond, not magic in the way humans imagined, but a connection between life itself. When the first guardian touched the ancient oak tree, the bond was formed. His heart and the forest became one. He could hear the wind's warnings, feel the pain of damaged roots, sense danger before it appeared. But the power came with a rule. The guardian could never use the forest for personal gain. The power existed only to maintain balance. If the guardian failed, the forest would choose another. The vision faded slowly. Anna looked up at the ancient oak above the ruins. She placed her hand on the bark. The tree pulsed gently, warm, alive. For the first time, she truly felt it. The forest was not just a place, it was a living memory, and she was part of it now. Chapter 36. A Legacy continues. Dawn arrived slowly. Golden sunlight filtered through the trees. Anna stood at the edge of the ruins, watching the forest wake. Birds returned to their songs. Mist rolled across the ground, but something had changed. She could feel it now. Every movement, every whisper of wind, every shifting root beneath the soil. The forest was speaking, and she could understand it. But along with the peace came something else. A warning, deep beneath the earth. The ancient enemy was stirring again. The seal was weakening. The same darkness the first guardian had fought long ago was beginning to wake. Anna closed her eyes. For a moment, fear filled her chest. The first guardian had sacrificed everything to stop that creature. Could she really do the same? The wind moved gently through the trees, almost like a quiet answer. Anna looked up at the massive oak tree. She thought about the visions, about the centuries of guardians who had protected the forest, and about the balance they had fought to preserve. This responsibility was bigger than her, bigger than one life. It was a legacy, a promise. Anna took a slow breath. Then she spoke softly to the forest. I understand now. I will protect this place, no matter what it costs. The leaves rustled above her, and for the first time since the tremors began, the forest felt calm. But deep underground, far below the roots, something ancient opened its eyes, and the real battle had only just begun.